Hey everyone, this is Roman Prokopchuk, and this is the Digital Savage Experience podcast. Today I have with me Darrell Amy. Darrell is a growth architect helping companies grow revenue faster. He's the author of the bestseller Revenue Growth Engine: How to Align Sales and Marketing to Accelerate Growth. He hosts the Revenue Growth podcast. He is also on the Forbes Business Council and is a C-suite network advisor. Thank you for joining me today.
It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. So tell me a little bit about your journey. How did you get to where you are today?
Yeah, the journey of my career started straight out of university. I got a job in sales. I thought, this will be great. I'll have a couple years in sales, and then I can go to law school and head on with a normal career. What ended up happening is two things. First of all, I ended up falling in love with sales. I was making more money than my friends that were graduating from law school, and it set me on this journey of sales management, and then developing salespeople. About halfway into that journey, I started a company doing sales training, and my very first client for sales training came to me. This would be about 17 or 18 years ago, Roman. He came to me and he said, "Hey, everything you taught my sales team is fantastic, but my website doesn't say anything about it. Do you build websites?" And so, being my first client in that new business, the answer was, "Yes, sir, we build websites." I took my marketing degree from undergrad and dusted it off, and we began this journey, which has been very interesting. One foot in the sales world, one foot in this whole digital marketing world with web, search, social, inbound marketing, account-based marketing, and all the cool tools around that. So the journey's been a lot of fun over that time, which has now spanned 3 decades. I've been able to be involved in sales, mostly in business to business sales, working with companies as large as the Fortune 50, all the way down to fantastic locally owned businesses. And at the same time, been involved with marketing initiatives in companies of those sizes as well. And I think it's been very interesting having the perspective of both sales and marketing, which is sometimes rare in today's world of silos and kingdoms.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I'm coming from a marketing background, several director roles on the agency side, founding my own agency. So I know kind of the pain points in terms of working with salespeople, in terms of kind of the expectations. They might not even understand what they're selling as a solution, or what a package is. Just trying to get a commission. So I feel it's very important from obviously my point of view, and like you mentioned, where sales and marketing align, then
Mhm.
marketing can work out a lot better for that client, and sales can actually do a better job selling the client what they actually need, and then upsell them because they had a positive experience with that process.
You're absolutely right. And, all of this journey led me to actually write a book, which was published earlier this year, Revenue Growth Engine: How to Align Sales and Marketing to Accelerate Growth. And my experience had been exactly what you were saying. And so many times it was like a vehicle that was out of alignment. We've all driven our cars that are out of alignment, and one thing's pulling to the left, sometimes it's pulling to the right. And when your company is like that, when sales and marketing are out of alignment, it really is not only frustrating, it's also it limits growth. It limits your ability to accelerate. And so we began to realize, and the heart behind the book was, what is it? What is it? What do we need to do? What is it that we're missing when it comes to getting sales and marketing pointed in the same direction, aimed at the same goals, and working together to grow revenue, which is the ultimate goal, right? At the end of the day, whether you're in marketing, whether you're in sales, whether you own a company with both of those functions, the goal at the end of the day is to grow revenue. And that was my light bulb moment. That was my wake up call. I was actually getting ready to speak. I do a lot of speaking at conferences, and I was speaking at this one conference, and it was an interesting audience because the theme was growth. All of the attendees, it was a mixed bag. Some were marketing people, some were sales leaders. And I remember walking in the room, and I could see the marketing people. They were all really, really excited about the latest marketing technologies and strategies and gadgets. And by the way, I'm a nerd. I get excited about all that stuff as well. I could see, you could tell who the sales leaders were because they were kind of sitting back with their arms folded, usually towards the back half of the room. And most of the sales leaders, I could, if there were thought bubbles over their heads, they would say things like, this is ridiculous. These leads are garbage. We could be selling something right now. Why are we in this room? And I remember at the back of the room, the owners, there were some business owners at the back of the room drinking their coffee. And you could just tell what was running through their heads going, why can't y'all get along? Why can't we work together? Why is this so hard? And what I came to realize at that moment was that this is not about marketing as much as I love marketing. It's not about sales as much as I enjoy sales and sales development. What it's really about is growing revenue. And at the end of the day, what we're aiming towards is growing revenue. And a lot of good things happen when revenue is growing, and a lot of bad things happen when revenue is not. And, at the end of the day, we need to align our efforts around growing revenue. And so I think that, first of all, that awakening inside the company is, it's not sales, it's not marketing, it's revenue growth. And sales and marketing are two sides of the same coin, if you will. They're two things that are aimed at that ultimate goal of growing revenue.
Yep, and when they're aligned, they can actually help each other a lot better, like I said, and different things like that salespeople don't come into play. Things that I've provided, I've had people provide are, okay, so you have analytics, let's say Google Analytics. You also have a CRM. So when a salesperson goes in, he needs some kind of ammunition to understand what someone is looking for. So if you're understanding at this point, because the user data on the individual user is blocked, let's say with HubSpot, you know at least what company they're coming from. So if you
Mhm.
reverse engineer it and understand what people are looking for in terms of the type of content from that company at that given time, you can, paint or draw a conversation around that and really seem and not seem, but you are kind of coming into play what people are actually looking for on your website or what the need state is. So a salesperson may just go in and try to sell, but if they're working with a marketing team, things like that, those insights can be provided to either help closing a prospect or upsell, or win a RFP if you're in a bidding process for a contract as well.
You're absolutely right. And when it comes to landing a deal, the intelligence we have, the insight we have on that prospect is, and on our current clients, by the way, is incredibly helpful. And in so many companies, since sales and marketing are just kind of two separate siloed departments, it's shocking to me, and probably not to you, but how many companies you go into and the sales and marketing are, infrastructure is not even wired together. If they've got a marketing automation system standing on its own, they've got a CRM standing on its own, but they're not even talking to each other. And at a base level, getting the infrastructure in place to make sure that the sales and marketing, they're either all on the same platform, or those platforms are tightly communicated. It's a quick way to get to lay the foundation for sales and marketing alignment. And if your company doesn't have your CRM or your sales enablement tools connected to your marketing tools so that you can share that intel, that's definitely something you want to get done right away. That's low hanging fruit for sure.
Yep, and telling a complete story. So once obviously a lead comes in, what actually happens with it? At what point it gets passed to a salesperson, and at that point somebody's responsible to process it, add additional information in the CRM. If you have NetSuite connected to a CRM or whatever your documentation process, your result or how you go towards a situation is only as good as the story you have, or like you mentioned, the facts and the data. So if there's no process like sales documenting when finally a new client, a prospect becomes a client and how that actually happened, and then basically pointing back to what, traffic source caused that, if it was an assisted conversion, if you don't have that information, you can't really kind of double down on the marketing side as well.
Yeah, and all of this on this journey with sales and marketing alignment. I was talking earlier about that conference, sharing the story about the realization that it's all about revenue growth. When it comes to alignment, though, the question is, what's the fastest way to grow revenue? And there's two things that came into play. Number one, if you boil it all down, there's only two ways to grow your company. uh, it's really actually kind of simple. At the most basic level, we either get net new clients, we add new logos, we bring new customers on board, or we cross sell more to our current clients. And so, what's interesting about that is I go into companies and we are doing revenue growth workshops, helping companies put together plans for growth. What we find is companies are usually good at one or the other. They're either really good at going out and they got a killer sales force that goes out and lands the new deals and moves on to the next one. They're great at net new. However, they might not be good at cross sell. On the other side of the coin, you find some companies that are fantastic at managing their client base and cross selling, going deep and wide inside their client base. But it's been a long time since they've had a consistent stream of net new business. So here's what I noticed. I was working with a client in South Florida. And by the way, if you have a business in South Florida and you are looking to grow your company, February, we have some openings for revenue growth workshops. I kind of say that tongue in cheek, but actually we're doing all of those virtually now. So I guess scratch that. We'll help you out whenever you want. Although a trip to South Beach is always nice. So we're in this company, I digress, in South Florida. And we go in, we're all seated there. The owner, the VP of sales, the marketing, some of their tech people are in the room. We're there to talk about growing revenue. And like any good meeting at the beginning, I said, what are your goals? What are your goals? And they said, Darrell, we need more net new business. We got to grow this company. We need more net new. And so I said, fantastic. I'm just curious, what's your goal currently for net new business? And they said, well, we have reasonable goal of growing 10% year over year in our net new business. I said, fantastic. What did you do last year? I'm just curious. We did 9.8%. So I started laughing and I said, well, why am I here? Y'all should write a book on this. You hit your goal. And I said, well, let's talk about cross sell. And it just so happened this company had launched a whole new initiative of services that were a great fit for their current clients. They'd spent hundreds of thousands of dollars in personnel and training, and technology partners. And I said, well, what about this new initiative to cross sell more to your current clients? And everybody's eyes started rolling. And they went, oh, Darrell, we've struggled so much in this area. Well, there was an example of a company that was great at net new, but was struggling at cross sell. Here's what I noticed. When you pull a spreadsheet out, and I'm not going to kill anyone with a spreadsheet today on a podcast, but if you look at your number of customers and you apply a reasonable growth to net new business and simultaneously show reasonable growth in your revenue per customer, cross-sell revenue, a company that grows, say, 12, 13% per year in each one of those areas will double their revenue in about 36 months. I call it the law of exponential growth. And when we can get net new and cross-sell going at the same time, that's where things get really exciting and companies can grow. And Roman, right now, we're having a lot of conversations with organizations that have taken a pretty big step back in revenue just because of the pandemic and the economic challenges right now. And we're having a lot of conversations going, how are we going to grow? How are we going to accelerate out of the ditch? And the answer is, don't just look at total revenue, look one level down and go, what could we do to drive net new? And what could we do to cross sell more to our current clients? And when that happens, now we get sales and marketing focused on those two things, more clients, more to our current clients. And now we can have conversations and begin to put processes and systems in place to drive those two things so we can grow the company faster, accelerate growth.
Yeah, I agree. I think those two need to align, like you said, for kind of true success and exponential growth.
Yeah, and the other thing we noticed, an alignment, and people get involved in all these conversations now about sales and marketing alignment. And actually, it's kind of funny because you can tell the perspective, whether they call it sales and marketing alignment or marketing and sales alignment. One wants the other to get in line with them. I noticed recently here's the key to alignment, I believe. It's not sales, it's not marketing. It has to do with what you're focused on. I took my car in recently to get aligned because it was kind of pulling to one side. And I noticed what happened in the alignment shop is they put your car up on the rack and they got these lasers, but they're focused on one point on the wall at the back of the shop. And what I realized was with sales and marketing, the key to alignment wasn't sales or marketing. The key was, what are you focused on? And the thing that we want to focus on is what I call in the book ideal clients. And I define an ideal client as a client that's a best fit for your organization because they are able to buy everything that you sell. So, a lot of companies have a primary product or service offering, and then they have, several additional products and services that have kind of evolved over the years or come online. An ideal client is somebody that has the potential to buy everything that you sell. And so what we notice about ideal clients, and also in our revenue growth workshop, I was working this past week with a really cool company that helps organizations develop e-commerce and promote their products on Amazon. And so we started talking about their ideal client. There are thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of products on Amazon, and thousands and thousands and thousands of companies that would be potential clients for this particular company to help out. But the reality was, there was an ideal client. There was a type of client that had the potential to buy everything that this provider offered. And we started to look and we said, okay, well, let's look at this ideal client that you just defined, and let's add up if they were to buy everything that you offer over the next 10 years. In other words, if you were able to cross-sell them into all of your products and services, and you were able to keep them happy, which, since they're an ideal client, they're a good fit. They're easier to keep happy and keep on board. We added it up, and the average annual value of an ideal client was $174,000. Then we looked and said, well, what about your bread and butter clients? Just that average up and down the street, run of the mill client. Well, the average value of that client was in the high 20s. So if you want to accelerate growth, where do you focus? I say focus on understanding who your ideal clients are. It narrows the playing field, gets you focused in. And now marketing and sales know, just like your car at the shop, that point on the wall is that ideal client. It's the ideal client that has the potential to buy everything that you offer, and there's a good fit with your organization. And one of the best things you can do, I believe, to get sales and marketing aligned is sit down in the room together and begin having that conversation about, who is our ideal client? And in Revenue Growth Engine, we give a framework to do that. And, I get pulled into these conversations all the time. Out of that, we've even distilled down some frameworks for determining who your ideal client is. And by the way, if you'd like that framework, just text the word revenue to 21,000, and we'll send that through, revenue to 21,000. But it is, I think right now, it's really important that companies get clear on their goals, and they also get very clear on who their ideal clients are. And those two things are really what I believe are the foundation for marketing and sales alignment.
Yeah, I agree. So, what motivates you to succeed? I know those motivations may have changed over time, but what currently motivates you to succeed?
Oh, I absolutely love that question. That's my favorite question of all questions. I'm a big Simon Sinek fan. Start with why. And so I believe my why has little to do with sales or marketing. Actually has to do with the nonprofits that I'm involved in. I sit on the board of several nonprofits right now, and I've noticed two things. First of all, nonprofits are struggling right now. This is a rough time, right? Obviously, income has gone down, and people are struggling. The other and nonprofits are solving problems, but we have a lot of problems in our society right now. But nonprofits are addressing them. Who moves the needle for nonprofits? generous, forward-thinking business leaders. And so my motivation, what gets me out of bed in the morning, it gets me all fired up, is and my personal mission is to help great businesses grow. And by great, I mean businesses that are giving back to their community and also creating a corporate culture with meaningful work and great jobs. And my personal goal, and it's actually in the front of Revenue Growth Engine, is to help 10,000 great businesses double their revenue so that we can affect $10 billion a year in net new giving and generate millions of jobs along the way. And all of this is possible when we grow. And that's what gets me excited. I love marketing. I love sales. I'm a nerd in both of those areas. But when a business grows and when a great business grows, a lot of people benefit. And Roman, that's what gets me fired up right now, is saying, especially in our environment where so many businesses are facing so many challenges when it comes to growth, or maybe even having to dig out of a ditch where they've gone backwards. Right now it's time to be strategic. On the C-suite network that I'm a part of, we say that right now is the time to drive and thrive. And so this is a time where I believe it's really, really critical for business leaders, whether you're in marketing, sales, own a company, wherever you are in business right now. I personally believe that it's going to be sales and marketing professionals working hard and working together, that's going to be the motion that's going to pull our country, really the world right now, forward out of this pandemic into a successful future. So yes, that gets me fired up. And I believe that what we're doing right now with sales and marketing, is the technology important? Yeah. Is are the tactics important? Yes. The message, all of that. But at the end of the day, the real result is revenue growth. And the result of revenue growth is growth in our societies and growth in our families and growth in our nonprofits. And we need it desperately. So everywhere I go, I'm saying to my friends in sales and marketing, let's dig in, let's work hard, let's get strategic, and let's get creative, and let's drive some growth.
Yeah, I agree. And I think obviously your motivation is the nonprofit side. And then in general, obviously you're helping businesses grow, get back on their feet, scale, and then in turn providing for the employees of those businesses, helping them help their families, and then obviously creating additional jobs because naturally if a company is scaling and growing, they're usually hiring to meet that demand as well.
Yeah, it is. You asked earlier in the question how that's evolved. I think when I got out of college, got into sales, I wanted to make as much money as quickly as I could, and sales, afforded me that opportunity, and I'm very thankful for that. I really am grateful for that. But I think as I've matured in my career and evolved, what I've realized is, in some ways, while sales is, we look at the data. I've co-host the Selling from the Heart podcast. So we're always looking at the trust data, right? And we're in a political season right now, and salespeople and politicians are usually neck and neck for the lowest spot on the trust index, right? And so sometimes there's a mindset that salespeople, they're just out for themselves and all of that. And while that may be true in some cases, the reality is there are a lot of amazing salespeople. We meet them in the Selling from the Heart network. But not only that, salespeople, and I tell salespeople this whenever I get the opportunity, you are the ones, the efforts you put forward, the work you do, the effort you put to improve yourself. When you land a deal, you don't just land a commission check. All the way back to, if you sell a product, that person in the factory that's assembling that product, the person that's designing that product, the person that's delivering the product, the person that's answering the phone, all of those people have jobs. All of those people have gifts under the tree in the holiday season. They all have food on the table because some salesperson got up, made a call, did something, and got out there. And the same thing is true for marketing. Sometimes, well, marketing, what's marketing? We're designing things and creating campaigns. And all. No, marketing you should hold your head high, because the jobs that are created when you walk in the door of your business, or nowadays when you log into the Zoom call for your company team meeting, the reality is none of those jobs exist if their revenue isn't coming in the door. And so the work that you're doing in marketing and the work that you're doing in sales is noble, it's good, it's necessary, and it is like you should walk in with your head held high, because the reality is, as we dig deep, as we drive and thrive, as our companies grow, um, that creates opportunity. And if not to be negative on this, but if we don't grow, and if we're not bringing in new business, things aren't very happy in our organization. So I just want to encourage everybody that's in marketing or sales, the two sides of the coin that are driving revenue, that I know you're working hard right now. I know that the last, season of pivoting and repivoting and trying to figure things out and trying to make calls on people who aren't in their offices and have limited budgets, all of that. I know it has been incredibly, incredibly challenging over the last season, but I want to encourage you to keep at it, keep working, keep driving, keep being creative, keep being strategic, because right now you are the ones that are creating the opportunities for the future.
Yeah, I agree. So, what's one thing that you may have seen as a weakness in yourself in the past that you've turned around and utilized as a strength today?
Wow, that's a good question. And I think it has to do with what we're talking about right now. I think I began my career very focused on myself and what kind of results I could drive for me and my family. And I did well, and I'm grateful for that. But I think if I were to start over again, I'd lift my eyes up and look around, and I would be, you know, salespeople. It's sales is a tough job. I think that with the level of rejection and challenges out there, sometimes you just kind of hunker down and you just self isolate and you just start driving forward. If I did it over again, I would be more focused on other people than I was back then, and I would be more generous, more thankful for the people that for both my clients, coworkers, all of the people around me. And I think salespeople, that's a really big challenge. It's a big temptation to get self-focused, even just out of self-protection. But at a minimum, just start looking around and saying thank you, because at the end of the day, and this goes back to sales and marketing alignment, there's nobody that can pull this off by themselves. It does take a team. It does take both marketing and sales working together in today's environment to be able to drive success. So yeah, if you salespeople in particular, don't be so self-focused. Lift your head up. That was a big lesson for me, and I've made some huge shifts in that in the last decade.
Yeah, I think gratitude is important. And then, like you said, I mean, I'm the same way in my 20s, kind of chasing, titles, promotions, that kind of thing. And then you have a mind, well, not everyone, but like you had a mindset shift, I had a mindset shift. And it's also through all those experiences, you build a emotional IQ and emotional empathy. So then you can obviously appreciate things better, know where people are coming from. And the sooner you get that, hopefully, the better, because you can really understand people where they're coming from. And in the sales or marketing role, I think that communication is the most important soft skill that you can have.
I so agree. And I think EQ right now, if you're looking for a way to develop personally, start going down the emotional intelligence or EQ road. In sales, there's some great literature there by my friend Jeb Blunt, that sales EQ, great. And there's all kinds of great literature to really help you understand. And this working together, I came from, I'm squarely in the Gen X world, right? I'm knocking on 5 decades here of life. And I think I came from a mindset, like I was saying, of, I'm just going to work by myself. The reality is nowadays, in today's world, that does not work, both on the on the side of the seller, your company. You've got to work as a team, and buyers. I got to talk to Matt Dixon from the Challenger Customer on the Revenue Growth podcast a couple months back, and their research shows that there are an average of 6.7 decision makers involved in a B2B transaction. So this idea of I can do this all on my own, it's yesterday's thinking. It's just not reality. We've got to work together, and EQ is a great path to go down to develop yourself in that area.
Yep, I agree. So, what's one piece of advice you can leave with the audience, personal or professional?
Ah, personal. Let's do personal. That would be fun. I've got so many different thoughts firing off right here, right now. And it goes back to what we were talking about earlier with Simon Sinek. Start with why. I think it's really, really important. It's hard right now. So not things aren't coming easy right now for most of us in the business world. We've had the challenges of the pandemic, the economy, it's all just shifts and pivots and changes, and budgets are not as loose as they were before, and it can be challenging some days to move forward at the speed that we need to, and you need motivation. So you asked me earlier, what my motivation, what my purpose was. I think it's really critical for us to take some time right now and really ask the question, what is my why? What's my purpose as an individual? Your company probably has a mission statement and values and all of that, which is fantastic. But what about you? What is your purpose? What is your reason for being? What are your values? What gets you fired up? And I think going on that journey of connecting with that I've done that over the last decade now. It's been profound in terms of how I see the world, and how I see the things that I do in business right now. They're all um, directed and shaped by that purpose and the values behind them.
Yeah, I agree. And, I think it's important to infuse your values and who you are if you have a company into the values of your company, because when they align, certain conflicts of interest and gray areas are a lot easily to maneuver if those core values are kind of entrenched in who you are, and vice versa, the company that you run.
Not without a doubt. And we get our agency is called Convergo, and we work with companies that use the entrepreneurial operating system. It's an operations model used by about 100,000 companies. But what's cool about these companies is they've all gone through the process of thinking about their values. And this, on one level, it just sounds like another corporate exercise from an episode of The Office, right? We're going to get some values. But if you really take it seriously and you go, okay, what are the values of our company? It does so much for, I'll just say, the decisions you're going to make, what markets you're going to go into, who you're going to hire. But if you do it right too, and it comes down to sales and marketing now, the message that you communicate with the market becomes infused with the values of your organization. And to me, knowing that as an individual and then knowing that as a company, those guiding principles, they almost become like a lighthouse. Lighthouses are set up so that when things get foggy and stormy, ships know where to go or where not to go. And right now, I think things are a little bit foggy and stormy inside a lot of industries and a lot of organizations. When you get crystallized on those values, it's really going to help you make sure you're steering things toward a profitable and successful future. So it's not all warm and fuzzy, and it doesn't have to be corporate, cheesy, whatever stuff from an Office episode. It values for an organization and individuals are, in some ways, I think they're the ball game, Roman.
Yeah, I agree. So I really appreciate you stopping by today. Can you let the audience know how they can find you?
Yeah, absolutely. Earlier, I talked about some resources. You can text the word revenue to 21,000, and that'll take you to our website, revenuegrowthengine.net, where you can find how to get a hold of me. You can also find all kinds of resources there. And I'd love to connect with you on social as well. There aren't that many guys out there named Darrell Amy. So if you type Darrell Amy into Facebook or LinkedIn, you'll probably find me right away with Revenue Growth Engine. And I'd love to learn more about your values and your goals as an organization.
Awesome. Thanks again for stopping by.
My pleasure. Thanks for all you're doing on the podcast, Roman. It's awesome.